One of the areas that I see players struggle with all the time is learning how to properly use the hips to load up in the backswing and then clear those hips out of the way in the downswing. Well, I put together 3 of my all-time best videos focusing in on the hips. I'm going to share with you some of the secrets that make it really easy to use the hips the right way. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so what if I told you that you could be incredibly consistent, not only with your irons, but with your driver too, if we got rid of this idea that our weight shift is only this way, which causes a hip sway and some other problems, reverse pivot, our spine angle to be moving around, and the weight shift is also going that way. I'm going to describe exactly what I mean in this video, plus 2 more great tips to get that backswing looking really good and to get you hitting the ball really crisp and clean. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so let's jump right into it. Let's talk about that weight shift. Now, everybody's heard that they need to shift their weight to the right. And a lot of times when you're thinking about target, you imagine everything as just being straight back and straight through. So my weight goes this way, and then my weight goes that way, straight line both ways. Well, there is a bit of a weight shift to the right. I should feel some pressure going to the inside of my right foot very early. But a big key for this is making sure that this right hip actually goes this way in the backswing. I want my right hip to be going back that way, and I don't want it to just slide laterally. So when it slides laterally, and I feel like I'm just going to the right, then my hips go this way, that right hip bumps out. What that does is that tilts my spine angle here, and then as I shift back in the downswing, I end up having to tilt my spine angle the other way. My spine starts moving around a lot, my head starts moving around a lot, and my contact point on the ground starts moving around a lot forwards and backwards. So here's the key to this. As you're getting that weight shift to the right, which is good, I also want you to feel like your hip is going this way. Now you do that by pushing kind of out with your foot. This is something that's been really cool that they found through lots of testing with ground reaction forces, where you get these force plates and you stand on them. What they found all the great players are doing in the backswing is they're actually pushing with this right foot this direction. So imagine if I'm on a clock here and 12 o'clock is right in front of me. In my backswing, I'm pushing with my right foot kind of toward 130. So as I get some pressure into it, my right hip is going that way so I can turn my hips. I can now turn my shoulders and I can get loaded up with a lot of power. So that's the first tip. As you shift to the right, the hip goes this way, it doesn't go that way. So let's go ahead and try that out again. You'll notice how my spine doesn't move around a lot as that's happening, and my head's gonna stay nice and stable. There we go, it feels very easy to make consistent contact. That's a nice shot right in the middle of the green. So the second piece there, we've touched on a little bit, which is my spine angle. Whenever this hip slides, the bottom of my spine moves. Now, being a good athlete that you are, you start to realize, well, if I slide this way, I can't take my head over there with it. I'd fall down or I'd be moving way too much. So you keep your head pretty steady and you end up in a move something like this, or a little bit of a reverse pivot. Even if it's not a reverse pivot, it's kind of sliding that way to where now your spine angle's angled this way. Then in the downswing, again, being a good athlete, you realize, well, that's not gonna work. I can't just chop down on it. So you start to reverse that angle and it goes this way. Well, again, like I said, when your spine starts moving around like that, that gets very inconsistent. What I wanna do is I wanna keep my spine angle fairly consistent at the bottom. As I shift to the right, I don't want it going this way. I want to just rotate, this hip goes back and my spine stays very, very consistent. As I make my downswing, I get a little bump to the left, my hips start to open up, and then at contact, I'm angled back slightly. So I'm really keeping that same, or roughly the same spine angle and just rotating around it in the golf swing, and that's what I call the stable fluid spine. Here's how to get that. We've already got the hip action going good. Now I want you to set up a little bit of tilt. Your nose is going to be behind the golf ball. And it doesn't matter if I'm at address, at the top of the swing, or back at impact, my nose doesn't really move a lot in the swing. It's staying behind the golf ball. So if you can keep your nose behind the ball as you do this, you're going to be really nice and consistent. So again, watch my nose as I swing. You're not going to see a ton of movement on this. There we go. I was able to come down, hit that ball nice and clean. Now the third piece is making sure that I don't pick this up with my hands and arms. What happens is, like I said before, I want this hip going back, I want my shoulders rotating, I want everything loading up so that I can make a good, powerful swing. Well, if I just pick this club up with only my hands and arms, it's gonna look something like this. I'm really throwing my hands and arms at it. I felt like I put out a lot of effort with my hands and arms. My body did nothing and that ball basically went nowhere. So here's the last key. I don't want to pick this club up with just hands and arms. I want to get the hips moving and I want to get the shoulders moving. Here's a great way to feel that. Let your arms swing and feel like your hips are starting the momentum. Again, they're not doing this. They're rotating in place and then rotating through. So I'm going to feel like my hips are moving and that's swinging my arms. From there, I want to feel like my shoulders are moving and then that's swinging my arms. So I'm creating a little bit of momentum. The shoulders are kind of leading the way and that's throwing my arms back. They're leading the way in the downswing, that's throwing my arms through. So I'm letting the momentum of my body let the arms swing. I'm not trying to take my arms and make them swing my body. Wouldn't work very well, wouldn't be very powerful. So do some swings where you focus on the hips, they're starting the movement, then the arms go back, the hips start down, and then the arms come through. Then think about the shoulders. They move, the arms move, shoulders open up, the arms come through. And then lastly, think about that club head. I want it to be the last link in the chain. My hips, my shoulders, my arms, then my club comes back. And then my hips, my shoulders, my arms, club still lagging behind, then it comes on through. It's that whip-like action that allows us to have a lot of speed without feeling jerky and just throwing our arms at it. So here I'm going to focus in on my body starting the action and carrying the momentum of the club all the way through contact. There we go, right in the middle of the green. Focus on those 3 keys and you're gonna have a lot of success. All right, it's great to have you here today, and I have the perfect station set up to get your backswing looking really good. It's gonna solve 2 problems. Number 1 problem I see is players getting the club too far inside in the backswing, and that causes them to get steep on the downswing and start to kind of come down over the top, really not getting it in the slot like we wanna have. And number 2 is getting that good full turn, making sure that our hands go up, we have tons of power, and maybe you're not very flexible. Maybe you feel a little bit stiff, a little bit tight. Well, I'm gonna show you a couple of tricks to get that good full backswing. Let's go and get started. All right, so the way I'm gonna set up this drill is I'm gonna go ahead and pick my target in the distance. I've come back behind my target, I've lined my club up with the direction I'm gonna hit it. Now I wanna put this club about a foot and a half behind my golf ball. That way, if I make a practice swing, I'm not gonna hit the butt end of this club as I'm starting back. Now from there, I've set my angle, the lie angle of my club, just on this club on the ground, like I was gonna hit on that. So the sweet spot of my club is right over top of the shaft. And I've set the lie angle of this stick, or the angle of this stick I put in the ground, at the same angle of my club. So technically, if I was to bring this club back kind of perfectly on plane, so I get lined up well here, I bring it back perfectly on plane, it would be right on that stick, and my club would be pointing right to my target there now. Now I could be off a couple millimeters here or there, but it's just the general idea. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a backswing where we feel like our hands, and this is actually a big misconception. When I wanna bring the club a little bit more out, I don't wanna get it sucked back into the inside and doing this. I wanna make sure that the hands go a little bit in and the club head stays out. A lot of times I'll see players try to pick that club head up, their hands go out, and what ends up happening is, yeah, the hands go out, but the club still goes in. So a lot of times if you're bringing this club inside, it doesn't mean that you're bringing your hands inside. A lot of times it can be the opposite of that. Your hands can be going out this direction, and the club can be the one getting sucked in. Well, there's momentum in the golf swing. And a lot of times we think, well, I don't want to get steep, so I need to bring it more inside. I need to get it in the slot. I'm going to do that in the backswing. But if you do that, if you do this mistake like we're talking about here, the momentum of this club gets deep, and then as you change direction, the momentum wants it to swing back steeper, back more over the top. So the more you go inside in the backswing, the more that kicks the club on top in the downswing. We want to reverse that. That way it makes it easier to get in the slot and shallow that club out. So again, here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to set up to my golf ball here. I'm going to make my backswing. I'm going to pause when my club's parallel to the ground. And I want to see just like that. My hands are slightly inside this stick. My club head is slightly outside this stick. And I'm exaggerating a little bit here, but to be honest, the number of people that I see that overdo this in the backswing is very, very few. I rarely see anybody do that. I see tons of players do way too much of this though, and then come that way. So we're going to do that about 5 times. And I'm really going to feel in that backswing, hands in, club out. Now on the downswing, I'm going to go real slow here. I'm checking it. In the downswing, I'm gonna let that change the opposite direction. So now my hands can go ahead and come out a little bit, and that club, the momentum of that club wants to swing under, get more from the inside. Now, I don't want you to hit golf balls doing this. I'm doing this for demonstration purposes. I'm a trained professional, as they say on TV. So don't hit golf balls doing this. It's so easy to accidentally just clip this stick in the downswing, and that thing's gonna shoot into your leg or come into your eye. You definitely don't want to do that. I'm gonna do that here. Again, I don't want you to do this at home. Do not hit golf balls doing this, but I want to show you that this drill can work in a real golf swing. That's something that is important to understand. You don't have to do it for yourself, but it's important to understand that this can work, and you can actually, it would be possible to hit good shots making this type of a drill, even though you don't want to do it with the actual stick there. Let's go ahead and try one out here. There we go, nice and solid. Just 5 feet to the right of where I was aimed. Pretty nice shot. So again, you definitely don't want to hit any swings. You don't want to hit any golf balls doing this drill. It's way too dangerous doing that. But I wanted to show you that this is actually a plane and a motion that can work. Now the second part of this is the backswing piece, the power. If you want to hit with some power, you have to load up the shoulders. So I have to get my shoulders turning. I have to get my body loading up. And in order to get as easy as power as possible, especially if I'm a little bit tighter, I have to let my hips rotate more, and I have to let my hands go up. A good easy way to add 5 to 10 miles or 5 to 10 yards to your drives, 5 or 10 yards to your irons, is by thinking about those hands being a Ferris wheel, so coming straight up and down, and that club being a Ferris wheel, so my club head going, that's the visual, it's not really what's happening, but in the backswing I want to visualize my club being a Ferris wheel, coming straight over my head, and now all of a sudden this club travels a little bit longer, my hands travel a little bit longer in the backswing, and I have a little extra time in the downswing to accelerate. Now if I think of it more of a merry-go-round, eventually as I go to the inside, again, not only am I going to have a tendency to get more in here where I don't want to be, as my hands go around my body, my chest gets in the way, especially if you're not super flexible, it gets really tight. Now all of a sudden my hands are way down here, I have a lot less time versus up here to accelerate the club. Now I found most players can easily elevate their arms, and a great test for this is if you just stand straight up and down, put your arms out to in front of your body. If you can lift your arms up above your head, well I can lift my club up vertically above my head here. If you have a shoulder issue and you can only lift your arms to here, you can't go on up, then you may have to be a little bit more across your body. But again, I find very few players that's really an issue with it. So now I'm going to do a couple more of these practice swings, and not only am I going to focus on the club head staying outside my hands, I'm going to imagine it going straight up. I'm going to imagine me getting this big full turn here and getting a lot of power. Now again, you want to do this in your practice swings, get comfortable with that, and you're going to remove this stick. Definitely, I can't reiterate it enough, it's a very dangerous drill, and you don't want to do that. I do not recommend that for anybody, to hit balls with that stick there, because you could easily, again, whack that stick and it could stick in your head, your eye, your leg. Lots of bad things could happen with that drill. So I got the feeling of it now, and now I'm just going to go ahead and complete that backswing, get my hands nice and high, and I get an extra few yards of distance. There we go, hit that one well. I see almost every single player that struggles getting steep in the downswing or coming over the top in the downswing, maybe losing some power, not feeling like you're very athletic with your golf swing. Almost every single player, and I bet this is you too if you fit that description, struggles with their hand path in the backswing and in the entire swing. So let me go ahead and talk about what's the most common thing that happens. Well, we want to get this club from the inside. We know that having the club in the downswing come from the inside, or in the slot as a lot of people would call it that, is really good for playing great golf. You don't see too many players that are coming down way steep in the downswing, you know, much more on this side of the slot. So if this is really good here, this steeper downswing, you don't see a lot of PGA Tour players, a lot of great players with that very steep angle. How do we get it shallowed out though? Well, what a lot of players will do is they'll actually pick up the club with the right wrist. So this right wrist will start to bend, what's called wrist extension, very early in the swing. And the right elbow will kind of almost make like a lawnmower move. And when you put those two things together, that sucks the club way back to the inside. That's in an effort to get it more shallow and from the inside, but the problem is we're talking about the downswing, and this is in the backswing. So when I tend to get the elbow and the wrist doing that motion, that drags the club inside, and now my body instinctively knows I'm gonna have to reroute it somewhat to even make my downswing, and it'll start to kick this club steeper and over the top. So the more you try to go inside in the backswing, the more it actually reroutes and gets steep and over the top in the downswing and causes a whole heck of a lot of problems that are very frustrating. Here's what I want you to do. Let's actually reverse that pattern for a second. Instead of that right wrist wanting to extend, what's called wrist extension, and go back, your knuckles back to your elbow, I actually want you to exaggerate and have it do the opposite. As you start the backswing, I want your wrist to what's called flex, your right wrist to flex, and that's gonna make that club stay way outside your hands like this. Now, if I was to really do this in a golf swing, it would look crazy. I'm just talking about a little bit here. Let me show you an exaggerated version of this. So if I was to actually let those wrists do that, that would bring the club way out here, almost like a Matt Wolf kind of looking swing. But then watch what would happen in the downswing when I change direction. That's gonna bring it to the inside. So the more you do this in the backswing, the more I suck this club to the inside, the more you wanna cast in the downswing. The more I keep this wrist kind of going this way, feeling flatter, the more it wants to have lag and be able to go into the slot in the downswing. Same thing with that right elbow. I want you to go ahead and set up here, and I want you to feel like it stays very straight for a very long time in the backswing. I imagine this club is staying as far away from my body as I can here. So when I put that together with the wrist angle, it's gonna look something like that. Again, kind of that Matt Wolf-esque type swing. And when I change directions, all the momentum of the club is gonna wanna work from the inside. So if you struggled to get the club from the inside, you struggle to get it into the slot, a lot of that is just that very first move in the backswing. So let's go ahead and try one the right way here. I'm gonna feel like I'm Matt Wolf, really getting the momentum going there. But in reality, it's not gonna really look like that. That's just the feeling that I'm having. You'll probably only barely see a small difference in what my real swing looks like when I feel that exaggeration. But let's go ahead and give it a try here. There we go. So that club really feels like it went way out there and wanted to loop in. Again, this is a drill. It's not necessarily what you're gonna feel like when you go out and play, but give me 15 of these as practice swings. So I'm just feeling like the club goes out and then it loops in. I'm gonna do that about 15 times until I get the feeling of it. Then another 15 where you take out the pauses and you actually make full swings doing that. So it'd be something like that. And I'm going another 10, 15 swings again just to get comfortable with the move. And then you're ready to feel the same thing when you're hitting a golf ball, and that club is really gonna wanna jump to the inside. Now there's one more piece of this that makes all the difference in the world. Actually, if you follow everything I just said there and you don't get this piece right, it's not gonna work. It's plain and simple as that. And the reason is, most players that I see, they try to get this club in the slot. They try to get it more angle of lag here. They try to get this from the inside. But the problem is, at the same time, they're standing up out of their posture. They're getting farther away from the golf ball with their body. And now you have to cast and flip just to be able to reach the golf ball down here. So essentially, we're making the golf ball too far away from us, and we have to kind of flip this club out, which is going to tend to get us steeper, and it's going to tend to make it very inconsistent, like we talked about. So if you want to get it in the slot, you want to get tons of lag, you actually have to get closer to the golf ball. What I want you to feel like is that your body works down into the shot. I want to feel like my chest gets closer to the ground, my knees get some bend in them. I don't want to feel like my knees are fully flexed and I'm standing up like this. I want to feel like I'm getting closer to the ground there. I want to feel like my hands are really low to the ground, specifically in this area of the swing. I want to feel like they're much lower. And I actually have a drill that's going to give you the perfect feel for this that I call the knuckle dragger drill, where I talk about exactly how to use the hips, the body, and the hands the right way so that you can finally stop standing up in the golf swing, finally get that club in the slot like we talked about here. And once you get this piece, it's like tying a ribbon around all of it. It all makes complete sense now. It all fits together as one total unit. So I'll play a preview of that video here in just 1 second. All you need to do is go ahead and click that round button. You'll see somewhere on your screen here, it's the card that's gonna pop up. Click there, you'll get instant access to this video where I go over the knuckle dragger drill. It's gonna make this super intuitive for you. Now, if you don't see that card, don't worry. Go down to the link below in the description and you'll be able to get instant access there too also. So best of luck. I can't wait to share with you the secrets of this kind of knuckle dragger drill. It's a real game changer for a lot of people. You're gonna have a blast playing golf when you do this. I'll see you there. I got an awesome video for you. This one is what I call knuckle dragger. This is one of the best ones, one of the big missing pieces to players that are struggling to get more lag. Now, let's talk about when you lose lag, what's happening. A lot of times what's happening is as you make your downswing, if we're looking from this down the line view, what happens is my hips go toward the golf ball, they start to slide forward. My chest moves back away from this golf ball, so I'm getting farther away from the golf ball, and then all of a sudden I cast, I flip, and I don't have a lot of lag there. Well, look how far my hands are away from the ground. Also notice when I get my hands closer to the ground, so as my hands get lower, then what happens is they also go forward more. So as I want to have more lag, when you feel like your knuckles are dragging the ground, then that club is naturally going to lag back behind, and then you're going to release that out in front. When your hands are far away from the ground, well, if I had all that lag, where would I be swinging? I'd be swinging a foot over top of the golf ball. So you have to kind of flip, release that lag early to just make contact with the golf ball at all. So having those knuckles feeling like they're scraping the ground is really going to be a big key. Now, another piece to this, again, when I talked about losing that posture, your hips go forward. You're going to want to feel like, as those hands scrape the ground, your knuckles drag the ground.